Welcome to Dreaming the Light. I'm Joanna, your guide on this transformative dream journey. In this podcast, we will explore the world of dreams, sleep, and rest, uncovering their remarkable healing potential, even in the most challenging times. Discover practical tools to navigate nightmares, anxiety, and trauma-related sleep issues, as we embark together on a quest to unlock the healing power of your dreams.
Hello, everyone. I'm having a great pleasure of talking with Kimberly Mascaro today. She has a PhD in psychology. She is a psychotherapist and author of 2 amazing books about dreams and many publications in the area of holistic health. And she implements many amazing modalities that I love and I can't wait to talk with her about, such as, of course, Dreamwork, Yoga Nidra, hypnotherapy, among others. So I'm very excited for this conversation. Welcome, Kim. It's really nice to have you here today.
Thanks, Joanna. It's great to be here. I'm looking forward to our discussion.
So would you mind starting by telling us a little bit your story? How did you end up becoming a therapist, working with dreams, yoga nidra, hypnotherapy, making this connection with the Western and Eastern approach to health?
Yeah, that's a really long background there. And I think it would bring us back about 20 years ago getting into dream work, but getting into therapy is even further back. And it's interesting because I was an artist. My bachelor's degree is in painting, and I ended up getting jobs with children and then eventually teaching art to children. And therefore, I became exposed to therapy because I was working in institutions for kids, sometimes locked units, sometimes level 14 institutions. And one being in the Bay Area, that was had a really deep impact on me. And of course, through that, I was exposed to therapists because it was a very holistic team. And I eventually just said, you know what, I think I want to do that. And by that, I meant therapy. And I met registered art therapists. I didn't really know there was such a thing at the time. This was from 99 to 2004. And so I was really young, much younger than I was just starting out. And then that's how I got into therapy. And I never really left the kind of the therapy world when it comes to inclusion of art and dreams and different things like that. I have practiced, with agencies that do behaviorism, cognitive behavioral therapy, but also I've been really blessed to work for agencies and organizations that allow us to bring in art and dreams and things like that. So that was kind of going on one layer. And then in another, it was around 2004, 2005 that I was looking for something. And I found a lot of offerings out there that were not resonating with me. And I won't go down that rabbit hole, but what I can tell you what did resonate is I ended up meeting a group that were identified as Gnostic mystics.
Okay.
And I had already had a martial arts background, so I was a little familiar with the different types of Eastern mysticism. And then I became more serious into Western mysticism. And through this group of Gnostic mystics, they were big on teaching us to change consciousness, our frequency, do lucid dreaming, do out-of-body experiences, which felt like maybe we could say Stephen LaBerge's wild technique. They had their own techniques, but it was something like that, where we would stay conscious as our body fell asleep.
Yeah.
And so this was going on, and all the other things I shared with you were all going on. And then finally, I found myself in a doc program. And I guess I shouldn't say found myself. I put myself.
Yes, that's usually requires some putting yourself there. Yes.
Right. So in the doctorate program, I started more interest in dreaming, and dream work was starting to come forth. And I had a cousin share with me, and a few others, but a cousin share with me a really powerful dream she had during pregnancy. And then I started talking to friends about it, these types of phenomena, and learned that this is actually a thing, that women all over the world are having and announcing dreams where they're having real powerful experiences, not just with any old baby in a dream or child, but with the one that they believe they're actually carrying in their bodies. And so that became my doctoral research. I did a pretty informal
Fascinating. Wow.
pilot study, and then it became the real deal. And then from that, I became friends with Stan Krippner, who was a reader on my dissertation committee. And then he invited me to a Dreamwork, the Ullman method of dream appreciation
Yeah.
circle he was facilitating, and also co-facilitating at Shirley McNeil's house, who's a pretty noted hypnotherapist and clinical psychologist. And from there, ISD, or International Association for the Study of Dreams, and yada yada. Here we are today.
Yeah. Wow.
So all the threads continued, though. I should just say they didn't. We're not ending. The art continued, the therapy continued, the dream work continued, and then here we are today.
Exactly. So this is also something that I really loved when I was reading on your website, is like how many different modalities you implement into your therapy, into your work with others. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about what you discovered. How did you find that those modalities, they fit in the world of therapy, of helping others go through their hardships?
Well, one really strong memory comes from when I was working at another agency in the Bay Area with women and families that were in early stages of recovery. So some of them had either enrolled themselves in inpatient or outpatient program, or some had come from jail. Some felt, this was their last chance to get their children back. Anyway, I share all this to say that it was pretty sad and desperate situation for a lot of these women. And so I had a couple roles at this agency, at least more recently. I did work for them twice, but in the more recent phase, I had directed an outpatient clinic and then became a mental health trauma therapist in their inpatient. And what I found in both settings, because again, same agency in the San Francisco Bay Area, I had found that dreams were a big part of these women's lives. And they helped on different levels. So for example, some would talk about having a dream where they're faced with using their substance or drug of choice or not, and what they did in the dream. We talk about it in group therapy, we're doing also psychoeducation groups as well, both. So we talk about that in the therapy circles. And other dreams would help them, just make big decisions related to their recovery journey. Other times too, they would say, I really want to be clean, for my sister who died because of this, overdose or what have you, and would sometimes have dreams too about that deceased loved one. And we then would talk about that in therapy, how through the dream, they could not only process grief, but keep the bond going, and also how that impacted their choice to stay in program or not. Because these people could just walk out, and then maybe go back to jail, never see the children again, all of that. It's pretty rough. So as that went on, I also realized that a lot of the women I was working with had Catholic background, some Christian, and other religions, native earth-based religions, but a sizable portion had a Catholic background, and several women from Latin American countries, and therefore were open and very interested in the idea of altars and shrines, which I had already been doing for myself with my own ancestral practice and visitation dream work, shrine and altar making for years and years. And fortunately, my boss and her boss, the couple people running this place were very open to me bringing that in. And that is one thing, that's honestly probably the thing I love so much, is that there was an awareness of the uniqueness of doing trauma work, psychotherapy with women from very rough, very difficult backgrounds. I mean, these women had suffered a lot. And so they were very open to do and incorporate all kinds of different therapeutic processes, not just, kind of the standard cognitive behavioral therapy, which of course we were doing too, but it was very, very open and affirming of a lot of different types of therapies. So then I started bringing in the altar and shrine making. And that seemed to go over well and help women in therapy set up a sacred space that they could use to just talk to, pray at, and also, if they wanted, do ancestral work and work with the deceased loved ones. And these deceased loved ones would sometimes, again, come in the dream, and they would tell me their commitment to staying clean and sober for another day or another week or another year because of this relationship. And so I really, really love that process. And when I can at IASD conferences and other places that will be open to it, I love bringing in the shrine making and deceased loved one workshops, where we use it as I like to call it a feedback loop portal, for lack of a better term.
Okay, that's a really interesting name.
Well, here's why. It feels very dual directional. You can, for example, one direction would be, okay, let's say you have a dream.
Yeah.
And you can take whatever you remember from that dream, whether it's words, prayer, a letter you want to write, an object. You can bring it to your shrine, altar, sacred space.
Okay.
Dialogue there. And that's one direction. Or you can go to your sacred space whenever you like and initiate there in the waking state through perhaps beginning your dream incubation practice at that space, asking, praying, leaving an object at that space. And it kind of can become like this dual directional feedback loop, because that can be a portal, if you will, or doorway. Am I explaining that?
Yes.
In an understandable manner? Okay. So I love, it's one of my favorite things to teach, one of my favorite things to do. And it's really close to my heart, because that's how I began in this. My father comes from a Roman Catholic Italian family, and therefore that is quite normal, to interact with the dead, talk with the dead, be comfortable with the dead, dream with the dead. It's just kind of like, I guess, what we do.
I'm wondering if you could say, maybe for people that don't have any experience with having their altars or sacred space, why do you think it's so powerful? Like, what would you say is the difference between, I don't know, someone sitting on their sofa and doing their journaling or any kind of process versus, yes, sitting in their corner or in their sacred space? Like, what would you say the difference is? Why this is more impactful?
I personally think it's more impactful because it's a dedicated space, and intention is everything. And right, intention for, everyone prays in a different way, I'll just say. Whether you're an earth-based religion from a theistic tradition, or what have you, polytheistic, everyone prays in their way. And for atheists, even if they're in nature, sometimes having that moment of connection to nature may be considered a prayer as well. So having an intentional space for that, where that is what happens there, that's the dedicated space, I think is really, really impactful and powerful, kind of in the way one may, as a dreamer, set up their bedroom as a sacred space for dreaming.
Yes, of course.
So now me, just with my own culture and my personal flavor, my altars have typically been in the kitchen or right next to it, but I've had other ones in the bedroom, so people could put them where it's most meaningful. And I would say, you mentioned, just sitting on the couch. Well, we do many things on the couch, right? But in an altar space, that's all you're doing, is putting your attention there. But you mentioned journaling, so I wanted to say that in a way can be very special as well, because you open the book, you close the book, you carry the book with you. That's the book. Kind of like how our dream journals are special. And I'm sure you and me have stacks of them.
Definitely. Yeah, it really makes sense. Now it makes me think about my sacred space and how I use it. Do you have any more tips on if someone already has a space, but they're not really sure how to make it their sacred space? Maybe there's corner in the room, maybe there's even special room that they have. If someone would like to start, where do you start? What do you put there? I mean, I obviously understood that it's very individual because, as you say, everyone has different beliefs and maybe different objects. But like, if someone is clueless about, okay, I have this space, what do I do?
Yes. So any dedicated space can work. I think a space that you're willing to hold just for that, clean, consider what you want to do there. So is it, and I'll just use what I primarily do mine for, because that's an easy example. Is it a way to honor deceased loved ones, ask for dreams, or at least give a gift, an offering, if you get them, when you get them? And then from there, I like to think about, okay, so I want to make it look like a place that I want to honor, a place I want to be. So that means you're going to choose colors, objects, symbols that you like and are not just random, something that connects you to the person. So my primary altar to my ancestors, which I do also some other things with, but it is a wooden box. And I painted it red and decorated it in the color and design of these particular Italian cookies. Because the reason I did that is because that's that brand and box that I can't remember the name. It starts with an L. I'm forgetting it now, but it's a red tin container that has those little tiny cookies in it. And so that memory is very strong for me in a particular household with a particular ancestor, but because it was a place where people came together, it served as a place for everyone. So that is how I painted and decorated my box. I really wanted to share that because some people go, am I doing it right? Is this how you do
exactly.
it?
That's why I asked this question. Yeah.
There's no right or wrong way. And who would have known that someone who loves to lead these types of workshops has hers decorated like a cookie box, you know?
Yes.
And so from there, I have all kinds of other objects that either belong to them. I even have some roses that I took from the coffin that I sprayed in like lacquer. And of course, they're decaying because some are over 20 years old. The veils, a veil they used to wear in church back when, the Catholic Church was very traditional and you had to veil. So I have their veil for one person, roses from another person's coffin. Again, this is all my dad's side, particularly some of their objects, things I got when I go back to Italy from the area they were from. Photos. I like to also have a place where I can leave water.
Yeah.
And sometimes if I want to have food, I can take it away. Really, I mean, anything you want. I think it's important though to do it in a way that feels like you're taking your time, not rushed, thoughtful, intentional. Keep it clean, really put out what you're doing there. Why are you there? Some people like candles, incense, all kinds of things, because it doesn't have to be from one tradition.
Of course.
Right. We see altars and sacred spaces from all traditions, and then it can be a place that again you engage with your loved ones, ask them to come in dreams if you want, if they're safe, or honor them when they do come in dreams.
It's so beautiful. I really love it. And you gave me some inspiration for maybe doing some cleanup and upgrades in my own sacred space. And what you said really resonated with me, that it's actually the biggest difference is that you use it for just one particular thing, that it's your space for something very particular. Yeah. So thank you for that. And I hope whoever's listening to this and never made an altar or a sacred space, maybe would like to give it a try, maybe for their dream work, maybe for their prayer or communication with their ancestor, wherever it would be. And would you like to share a little bit, because what we said before, your experiences with women going through hardship and the dreams coming to maybe present some ideas or choices or show the ancestors to encourage a change or keeping on track and so on and so on. Would you mind sharing your story or maybe experience from your life, how dreams came to the rescue to help you in the process of healing, whether physical or psychological or in any kind of crisis, because this is something that I love to speak with everyone about, is like how dreams can really help us in the times of crisis.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. And one thing I was thinking of from, well, a couple examples from a while ago before I talk about health are maybe not necessarily related to crisis so much, but I was thinking about relationship with different people, relationship with intimate partners or jobs, things like that, and how I've had some interesting dreams that have showed me the trajectory or the outcome if I stayed with a particular job or if I remained in a relationship with a particular person. And so we can incubate dreams too on that, of course, on anything, and just simply asking, show me what's going on here. And so maybe not necessarily a crisis per se, but dreams can really tell us what we might know but don't want to see,
Yeah.
or know but not know, or yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's like when our best friends can see things about us or our choices that we can't really see or we don't want to see. And that's why I very often compare dreams to our best friends, because it's exactly this thing, right? Like they can show us things that we feel we're not ready or we don't want to see. Yeah.
Exactly. And I like how you say dreams as best friends. Sometimes I think dreams are a mirror, dreams are show our shadows and all this, but yeah, just like a really good friend would, that is not afraid to be open and honest and kind of call us on our stuff, you know?
Exactly.
One dream, this was from a long time ago, but I'll never forget it because it told me everything. I wanted to know where a particular relationship was going. It was someone, gosh, maybe this was 7, 8 years ago, but someone had been seen for a few months and, had some questions, but I'm just rolling with it. Time will tell, I say, but the dream showed me exactly where it was going. And so in this dream, and this one I believe is in my first book, Extraordinary Dreams. I think I wrote about it there, where in the dream, it's very short, but right to the punch. We're in a car. It's his car and he's driving. And he's driving us along the edge of the sea. And there's like a cliff on one side, the ocean here. And I'm like, okay, And so being from California, being by the edge of the sea is not uncommon. So while I didn't think much of that, because the geography wasn't too striking, what was striking that he was just kind of like la-di-da, and the waves are starting to crash into the car. Oh, no. And I'm just, and it's like he's just like, oh, we'll be fine, So it's like, okay, I'm seeing an obliviousness. I'm seeing a lack of care. He's driving us to our home that we're going to. So we go up this cliff and it's like, okay, cool. House on top of the cliff overlooking the ocean. That sounds good, right? But when we get there, it's a barren shack. No furniture. It's a total shack. Like parts of walls aren't there, other walls and pieces of, and it was so isolated and lonely and cold and not a home. It didn't feel like a home, it was just a structure. And it's like, okay, here you go. Here's your house, here's home. And so I took that very seriously and didn't stick around because I think my consciousness knew this wasn't going anywhere, at least not for a long time. And I didn't want to stick around to have the experience of a relationship be so barren and careless. And again, he was driving, not me, in his car. So I was like, okay, I'm just going along for this ride. And like, what am I doing here? So that might not be a real huge crisis, but it can definitely be a challenge when we have to make big decisions like that about who we're spending our time with, where we're placing our attention. And so that was really helpful to me. One dream.
Yeah, exactly. And you said something really important. I feel that we kind of are all the time in a big crisis in a way that we are being bombarded with other people's opinions constantly and what we should do, what we shouldn't do, who we should be. And the social media, as much as amazing it is, it also has some dark sides. And I feel that because we live in the times that we live, that everything is so accessible yet so overwhelming to us, we are in this crisis of finding our own identity, in a way, of finding our own voice in all of that, and making the decisions that are truly aligned with who we are and not what whoever else is thinking. And it's a very important part for me because of my personal journey, how dreams helped me to realize my own authority over my own life. And what you just shared, it's like you could, go and ask around your friends what you should do. You could, check red flags in the partnership in the internet. Like you go to priests, like you could have done so many different things instead of turning to yourself, to your own intuition, to your own dreams, to make the decision that's the best for you. And I think that it's incredibly important to do that, to regain this self-power and believe in our intuition and in our hinges, in our inner guide, whatever you call it, right? So what you're just saying, it's a perfect example of not looking outside, but looking inside for the answers. And I feel that we've been a little bit lost with that because we are just marinating in the soup of voices from all over the world constantly.
I completely agree. Yeah, it can be really overwhelming, and it can be scary sometimes to take what can feel sometimes like a big step in our development, because it's easy just to have someone tell us what to do, and the nice thing though is if we have that courage to listen to that intuition, because I think dreams and intuition are very much related, and do what they're showing us, act, honor the dreams, which is, it's huge, not to ignore dreams, but to really thank them, from how they kind of came down to us, and do some type of action. And if we act against the dream's advice, just being aware of that, because it's true, it's hard, we're in these skin suits in these human bodies, and we have desires and ego, and we're here to, learn these lessons. And sometimes it can really be a big challenge to go, okay, all I'm going on are my dreams. It can feel really scary, but it sounds like we both very much have the experience to know they are our truest guides. And I had, a big health crisis in 2019. And so, and then the book Dream Medicine talks about that. And that was where it was like, okay, Kim, now the gauntlet has been thrown. Now we're going to see if you're going to really listen to us. If I'm talking from my dreaming mind, are you going to really listen to us this time? And so while I had some, I guess, dreams warning me and giving me some pretty big hints as to something was wrong in, my body, or body, mind, spirit, because I think it all really has to do with all of it. They were still a bit puzzling because they weren't as direct as what some other people had. But then in 2019, when, I had that diagnosis with a chronic illness, dreams, and I committed to using Dreamwork to help me, boy, did they just flood in. They really flooded in. And some were very much directed at what I should eat and not eat. So really practical stuff like that. Like, here's some cauliflower, here's some collard greens. Or I'd be drooling in a dream, I know I'd have the condition, but I'd be drooling over cookies in a bakery in the dream. And then all of a sudden they become skulls,
Wow.
So just like that, I'm like, okay, I think that's telling me that's going to kill me.
I would say that really straightforward sign.
I know, but we don't want to believe it if we like
We
cookies.
don't, that's true.
Or baked goods. So that can be a thing in itself. And other times there were like processes that I was shown. So I'd be dancing. I really like timba, sometimes Cuban salsa, they'll call it, but I love dancing Casino Rueda and Cuban salsa music, timba. And so I'd be dancing in a dream and like showing everybody how to use a cold pressed juicer, and I'd be juicing greens. And so it was like, oh, okay. keep dancing, literally and figuratively. And then to honor that dream, I went in and started researching cold pressed juicers and bought one and started doing that. Also eating things. You and me share a love for yoga nidra. We're both certified in that. And one time my teacher's voice, Kamini Desai, came in and said, your body knows how to heal itself. And it was like just the voice, the body heals itself, something like that, very direct. And so it was like, okay, that gave me the courage to just keep going. Other things were symbolic, but not. So what I mean by that is when I would ask the dream, show me, or just, I didn't even have to incubate or cultivate a dream. They would just come. But sometimes I would ask, dream, show me, what I need to know about what's going on in my body right now, or this condition, or, how to heal this or that. So many questions for dream incubation there. And a long series that went on for a long, long time, over a year, dreams showing me clogged pipes. So, toilets that didn't flush were a big one. Clogged pipes, clogged kitchen sink, dirty lakes, pools, things like that. And I did some tests like a GI map and all kinds of different tests, because I used a lot of integrative and naturopathic care, and learned that I had some pretty significant gut dysbiosis. Wow. And I really was way more sensitive to foods than I thought I was. I had like my mom's genes, maybe. She's always been, thin, just easily, naturally. And I think I must have had some of her genetics, because while I could eat whatever I wanted, maybe not anymore, but not long ago, I could eat whatever I wanted and not really gain weight, my body was getting inflamed. And I'd have that kind of inflammation in the gut where you get kind of puffy.
Yeah.
And so, but I think, oh, I'm fine. Oh, this will digest eventually. But I'm not, gaining weight, so I must be fine. So because I was, active, I thought I was fine, but really I was pretty wrong. I was dead wrong, and tests showed all kinds of things. Chronic, I'm surprised I didn't really have the symptoms, but something that maybe they thought I had chronic fatigue, have flat cortisol line. So I needed to do way more resting because I was too much of a busy bee, and then just eating on the go. And so my gut, GI maps and Geneva tests and all that were showing that, you can get these from a naturopath, we're showing the gut and dysbiosis. And then if, you read Dream Medicine, then about in 2019, the breast cancer.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, I was just in such shock, like, what is going on? Everyone was like, you're always so healthy. And, I realized it wasn't just physical as well, but there was a whole mental, emotional, spiritual component going on. And dreams showed me that too. So we can, I think, use dreams to help us navigate healthcare. That's what I believe personally. Again, I'm not making any medical claims here. Everyone should consult with their physician. And I think we can use dreams to guide us, because we do have choices in healthcare, right? We have integrative care, we have conventional, we have naturopathic, we have traditional Chinese, we have Ayurveda. There's so much healthcare options out there. But the one we typically know in the United States, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the same for you where in the country you're in Israel, but here everything is so conventional and pharmaceutical. So when my dreams are showing me to do something different, it was scaring people pretty badly.
Yeah.
And that was another way I learned, oh, this is all to teach me boundaries. And so I could, play around with that in the dream too.
Many people, I feel, see dreams are something really non-practical, right? It's like, oh, I had a dream, I dreamt something, maybe I remember, maybe I don't. And many times, well, most of the times dreams speak in metaphors and symbols, right? So it can be a bit challenging sometimes if we don't know our own dream language to understand what those dreams really are asking from us or showing us. But actually dreams, and what you say, it just confirms what I also truly believe, that dreams can be incredibly practical. They can actually show us the exact things that we need, or that we should or shouldn't do, what you just said about the food that you were shown in the dreams, or even which part of your body is being affected by something. And of course, again, we can always look at things metaphorically. So maybe it's not always about the cauliflower, but maybe the vitamins that are in the cauliflower, right? But so it's very individual. And sometimes it can be like, okay, so what do I do with all of that? But I feel that it's like if we spend some time and we put this intention, as you said, you mentioned putting an intention so many times. And I think this is the key also for our dreams really communicating with us. And even believe in ourselves that we can understand our dreams because they're like our best friends. So maybe sometimes it can be a bit rocky, but it's like we can take so much from it. And making choices regarding our health because of something that we've seen in our dream can be so scary, but also so empowering. And again, I'm not advising anyone, to jump in any huge life or health decisions based on one dream and so on, because we do need to understand that sometimes it's symbols and sometimes it's metaphors and so on. But like, if we work with our dreams like you did for all these years, you could clearly see and sense what was the actual thing that you need to do, or think you need to eat, or practice you need to implement, or medical procedures that you should undergo. And then, as you said, it comes from you and it's so empowering.
Right. I think really being serious about a dream practice, as you know, too, it'll give us goodies as we go along.
Yes, I
And
love that.
so what I mean by that is we might say, oh, all these dreams are wild and crazy. I don't understand them. But then through tracking them, logging them, keeping a record of them, we can then, just that alone tells our consciousness that we're going to pay attention, that we're paying attention to all of who we are, not just our waking selves, but all of who we are. Our spirit, our soul, our dreaming mind, whatever you want to call it, consciousness. And therefore, I believe through practice, through building that relationship, just like you would with a best friend, as you said, continues to grow the practice and therefore the dreams. And if they're not, still it's okay, because we'll then start to see our own dream language, like you said. And that's important to build our own dream language, not use a dream dictionary, because, a serpent for me, I've learned, is very different than a snake or serpent for someone else. Or a dog for me is different than maybe a dog for you, or, what have you. And anything. Of course, there's a few that we could all probably agree on, like maybe a house is ourself, a car is how we travel through the world, a woman's purse, or maybe even a men's wallet, something like that. That's our identity in a way. There's a few things we could probably all agree on that the collective unconsciousness seem to agree on.
Yes.
Among many people of the world, but still we build our own dream dictionary, and we do that by tracking them. And then we start to see, we start to have that relationship, the relationship between becoming friends, best friends with ourselves, with our own consciousness, grows this. And then we could start to trust it more. And then maybe that's as far as someone wants to take it. But then maybe somebody else wants to play around with dream incubation. I love teaching that in workshops and retreats too, saying, okay, like, let's see what comes if we ask for something, particular, to be shown something, ask for guidance, for help, what shows up then.
And what you said about just building our own self-confidence in ourselves, it's one of the reasons why I love Dreamwork so much, because it's like this amazing gate to really learning how to trust ourselves. Because I always say, maybe you don't trust yourself. Maybe that you feel like you're making wrong choices, or that you don't really make choices that you feel you should because of, as you said, social pressure, or you feel you have no boundaries, and so on and so on. So I always say, let's take a dream and see what is maybe asking from you, what's showing you. It can be something really small. Do that. Connect to that, and then see what happens. Start with the small things that come from our dreams. And then after the next dream or the next dream, you start to making those small decisions. It can be something really small, like even what color of sweater to wear, or like what drink to have. Maybe instead of coffee, your dream will show you tea, and you start to feel better. And someone complimented on your outfit, and maybe you started conversation with you that led somewhere, or maybe, and it's just those small things that you started to see, okay, like I trusted my dream. I did something that I understood from my dream, and it takes me somewhere. And then I believe that like that, we build the confidence into making, like a big decisions, like relationship decision or health decisions, because we already see, okay, this is taking me somewhere. So I love using dreams as this empowerment portal for building our own self-trust. For me, it's amazing how it works. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Just start with small things. I always say, be curious and careful at the beginning if you still don't know, you're not sure how your dream works, because sometimes people receive a big dream and they are not really what you're sure with that, and they can make some really impulsive big decisions. And I also say, just take a step back and maybe ask for, as I call it, follow-up dream, and then see, because if you're not used to working with your dreams, it can be a bit confusing.
I like that, because again, everything you said just now comes back again to what you were describing as how dreams are like a best friend. And we wouldn't just dive into a friendship so quickly. We want to know the person, see if we can trust them, see if they're safe, see what they're really about. And same with dreams. We don't, like you said, just show me what sweater to wear. Just see where things take you.
Yeah.
And taking your time. Yeah. Taking
Exactly.
your time with a dream practice, building it as you would a relationship. You don't just boom right away, because then you don't know you don't know what's going on. You don't know. You just don't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Your podcast here and all the other wonderful people I've seen that you have interviewed will encourage any viewers out there to say, it doesn't take that much time. If I don't want to write in my journal when I wake up or in bed, I can grab my phone and do audio recording, anything just to have a log, because like we were saying earlier, this tells that part of yourself that this is important. Yeah.
Definitely. Having a log is so important, because we forget our dreams so quickly, even though we think we're not going to forget them. Of course, there are dreams that they are engraved forever. Yes, I know. But most of the dreams we can forget so quickly. And for me, even I write my dreams every morning. And sometimes I'm like, I wrote this. I dreamt this. It happens to me because I write when I'm still in this place of half awake, half asleep. And then sometimes I don't even remember that I wrote this. So I would lose completely this dream if I didn't write this down. And many times there's such a powerful insights there, and that I would never want to miss. So I'm also advocating. And with all the technology and recorders and speech to text apps, you can really choose your thing to record your dreams. So agreed on that. And I really want to ask you also about how you implemented Yoga Nidra in your practice, in your holistic practice, because I'm really big on Yoga Nidra and I believe it's an incredibly healing practice and it connects to Dreamwork amazingly. So I was wondering, when and how did you realize that, hey, maybe this can be really like a part of my process?
Well, so it was in the very beginning of 2019. I wanted to go on a retreat. I went to Esalen. I saw Yoga Nidra on there, and I'm not a yoga teacher. I don't particularly have a asana practice, a asana yoga, postural yoga, if you will, has played roles in my life here and there, but it's never been something I was really deep into. But meditation has, and that began when I had a kind of a martial arts career, if you want to call it that, on and off in the background, for on and off for 25 years. So at 18, I started doing Tai Chi and got into meditation around that age, and it just continued to grow. And so I had a deep interest in many forms of meditation, and had spent a great part of my life trying different types, and some practices did for years. And so long story short, I had a great respect for it. And then I learned about this whole sleep-based meditation thing. It was kind of like, what's going on there? And I thought, well, this sounds like a really great retreat, and I want to do it. And so I went, and I thought, this is, sounds or seems kind of like hypnosis, but a little different, what's going on here? So that just my questions opened up some interesting conversation with the founder of, well, not the founder, but the teacher, the woman that taught me Comedy Psi, She did her PhD in Yoga Nidra, and she's the daughter of Amrit, and they have the integrative Amrit method. So having had this first part of the retreat, thinking I'm just going to do just this week-long retreat, that's it. I came to learn much more about it through discussion and through the whole experience. And then through, my experiences with it in the retreat center in the classroom, I was like, oh wow, okay, this seems like hypnosis, but I'm realizing it's different, And then I had one Yoga Nidra that, because they had a couple teachers there leading them, where I felt my hands and feet kind of float.
Mm-hmm.
When I was done, now you remember my practice with Gnostic mystics. So, right, this is like, 19 years later or something.
Yeah.
I go to them and I said, hey, I have a background in dream work, out of body, lucid dreaming stuff. I had this experience in the Nidra. Can we talk about this? And I don't remember exactly what she said. It was just something like, oh yeah, that's a whole nother thing. And so I was like, yeah, I know what's going on here. So I then thought I'd leave the retreat going, aha, this is an interesting place to be. Let me play around with this Yoga Nidra stuff. Because I didn't really have any experiences with it before that. Didn't even know much about it. And then they said at the end of the retreat, the group was like, well, we certify in this. You've done the first half.
Yeah.
And if you do the homework and then near the end of the year, do the second week with the homework in between, you'll have completed the certification. And I had two things going on in my mind. One, the workaholic in me was like, oh, yes, we're going to do it. And then the other part of me was like, what are you doing? This is like hypnosis. You don't need that. Like, what are you doing? Just more stuff to do. You don't need another certification, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So all this monkey mind, all these rambling thoughts. Long story short, you can probably guess what I did. I went for it and then finished up in September of 2019. I did the final week then after all the homework and the practices, and you make all the recordings and all that, read the books and all this. And then I was like, okay, cool. I did it, nice. This is very relaxing, wonderful. Maybe I'll use it more with clients. Maybe I won't. Who knows? The next month I got the breast cancer diagnosis.
Oh.
So I said, haha, universe, well played. And I used Yoga Nidra every single day, sometimes twice a day in that first year post-diagnosis, because anytime I felt a flare of anxiety, boom, Nidra. Right away, I went from working full-time to half-time immediately. And what that experience taught me was that I could use altered states of consciousness to relieve anxiety in ways that a lot of my psychology training didn't help as much, not as deeply. So Yoga Nidra became a best friend. I saw my dreams just show up for me. I also worked with Larry Burke doing some hypnotherapy as well.
Yeah.
And was doing lots of altered state of consciousness. I hate that term, but I guess that's just a term we use, non-ordinary state of consciousness. So whatever, but I was doing a lot of this work, lots of time in just meditation, prayer, asking, what do I need to do? Really listening to that intuitive voice.
Yeah.
And I learned so much from it. And, the healthcare ride is never over. One thing I don't want to scare anybody, but one thing I've learned from this wild ride of almost, 4.5 years now, almost 5 later this year, that I've learned is that most people do have cancer in their body, almost everyone. We just haven't found it yet. And that by, I think it was 2030, everyone will have a diagnosis, and almost half have it now. And this is related to toxins in the environment, how we're living our life, food, and where Dreamwork and Yoga Nidra can help with these really scary realities is that the Yoga Nidra can bring us into more parasympathetic nervous system states, relax, rest, and digest, help us with sleep, all kinds of things, right? when we use yoga nidra, what makes it different, as you know, it gets us into deep sleep, into the restorative sleep.
Yes.
And even 45 minutes of that is like hours of, maybe nocturnal sleep. So we can do deep healing work. You pair that with other sources of knowing, traditional knowing, intuitive, prayerful things, dream work, all of this, and you can then get direct answers in those states. So all of this takes a great deal of trust, and anything can happen to me or any of us. I get checked out twice a year, but anything can happen. One day it might flip and it's like, oh my gosh, train crash coming. Or it can be like it's been, where it just was resolving with naturopathic things, treatments done primarily outside of the United States, and there's a lot.
Yeah.
Using mostly sound, light, supplements, things like that. The body can heal itself, especially if you can catch it earlier on. That's why technology is great, right? And that's how we monitor it. So we want to use all systems in our favor. But the dreams also, and all of these practices helped me find, I don't mean for this to sound icky, but find a bit of a humor and a wake-up call. And I hesitate to say that. I want to be authentic, but some people would hate to hear anyone say that, because this is a scary, wild ride. But you're asking me about my personal experience, so I'm giving you my one story, and I don't mean to imply that's how it should be for anybody. I just got lucky in certain cards I was dealt to be okay today. But again, that can change at the drop of a hat anytime. And so I continue to use yoga nidra to keep my nervous system in the healthiest state possible, to allow, because you asked about the connection with that and dreaming, to allow my body to be conscious in that deeply relaxing state, and just see if I can have an experience of something bigger, see what messages or downloads or transmissions might come to me. And I've seen yoga nidra and dreaming merge, in that the more yoga nidra I do, it seems like, and this was true when I used to meditate in other forms back in the day, they bring on higher degrees of lucidity for me in dreaming.
Same for me.
Sometimes, yes. And the voices in the yoga nidra can come into the dream, and you can have the interaction. So again, I mean, I always say I don't know anything about anything, but I can just tell you what my experience is, how I am doing my best to understand the mystery and continue to stay, because for me, as you've heard me use the word sacred many times, that again is personal. For me, this is all sacred practice. And for me to stay humble and in service of something greater in the sacred, toward earth, toward all beings, toward each other, community, then I'm going to trust that whatever happens to me in my physical body, it's meant to be. Also, as you know, yoga nidra, dream yoga, dream work, lucid dreaming can help us also see that death is a bit of an illusion as well. But that's for a whole nother.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. That's for another conversation, definitely.
Or maybe a different interviewee, because there's so many people with way more experience in that than me that you can interview.
But I always love gather perspectives and hear stories, because yes, as you said, we may have expertise in something, but eventually I feel that the more point of views or the more stories we hear, the more we can connect to something, because one person say it in this way and the other person will say it or explain it in a different way, and suddenly something clicks, right? Because how many times you maybe heard about something or read something and it never clicked until it was said or done in a very specific way, and then it clicked, but it was all along the same thing. Because eventually, and this is also what I feel about all the practices, is that eventually they all take us to the same place. So it's like we're just choosing different paths. Some people do it through other ways of meditation. I do it through yoga nidra, through Dreamwork. Other people do it through lucid dreaming. Other people do it through, I don't know, other practices. There are so many, shamanic and so on and so on. That's why I always say, like, choose your practice, like find what resonates with your heart, with your soul, and then go with it.
Oh, since you mentioned some of those practices, maybe I could share one more thing.
Of course.
which one of the dreams one of the dreams along my healing journey earlier on is I kept doing lots of dream incubation. So I'd go to bed, meditate on the dream, show me what I need to heal. And so many to share. Some lucid ones too that were really weird and cool. But the one I really want to share because of what you just mentioned, someone that I'm friends with from the ISD during a conference that participates, has a leading role in the side dreaming contest that we play, I was very direct. Dream, show me what I need to cure myself, because I didn't always have heightened degrees of lucidity, but I had enough to know what my condition was and that I was looking for the cure. Many dreams like that.
Yeah.
But I wasn't controlling the dream, or I wasn't flying off somewhere else. I was just staying with what the dream showed me, which is often the best way to work with lucidity, I've learned over the years. And so it was just like, okay, show me what I need to see. How do I heal this condition? This person walks up. She's holding a huge frame drum. And I wake up and I cried. I was so upset because I had the same attitude that I did a couple years before in Yoga Nidra. Was like, you need another certification. You're done. You've learned all you need to learn. You're done with school. Knock it off. Chill out. And that dream told me, you're going to walk this path. And so then I already knew some things about shamanic practice in traditional indigenous cultures, and then started to go down the rabbit hole of looking how were frame drums used in my own culture in ancient times in Europe, in Ireland, even in Italy, things like that, ancient Greece, because you can see them if you look at the art way back they're there. And so, sometimes even a few thousand years ago. So at the time I was dabbling in active dreaming by Robert Moss, which blends dreamwork and shamanic journeying. I was in a very brief ISD workshop where Fariba Bogzaran was drumming. And I also knew a woman named Susan where I lived in Nevada County that was doing drumming for people. And so I walked in her house. We became friends through Robert Moss and others. Other dream workers connected us. And I walked in her house one day and I said, that drum is oversized. Why is that frame drum so big? I said, it's like the one I saw in the dream.
Yeah.
And she said, oh, this is more used with community, because it wasn't a smaller frame drum, it was a larger one that was a little different for me. And so that started putting me on the path of like, okay, I need to heal through these altered states, learn this way, use this way to heal myself, and then know that the more isolated solo practices I had been doing, being raised old school Roman Catholic, which are very quiet and solo, alone often, had to be flipped. It was like, no, you're going to tell people about what's going on. So I became even more, I was already a bit open, but became even more open about sharing my healing journey and what had gone on with me through that community. I mean, we'd be here another half hour if I talked about it. So I'll stop here, because that was like this explosion of me learning who were my people.
Yeah.
And who weren't. Boundaries setting, jumping into communities and surrendering into that kind of healing. No more doing practices in isolation all the time. I still do. I have my own solo practices, but now being more open to being with others in them, which was a little new for me. So, I mean, maybe I'll leave it there, because again, we could go on, but I know we've talked quite a bit, and that I think is the last maybe powerful dream to share, is that when you're on a healing journey, trust that dreams can show you the next level of your development and growth. And so since then, I've been studying over 3 years now with a practitioner in California that has guided me even deeper, taking me beyond what I learned from Robert Moss and others, and taking me deeper into those practices for self-healing, where I can go in and ask my helpers, my guides, heal, to do a healing on me right then and there, to dismember me right then and there, to bring me down to my divine light right then and there. And so it's more directive than maybe a passive dream, but you don't have to give up one. You can do all of it. You can do all of it. So yeah, I wish you good health and
Thank you for sharing that beautiful dream, really, and bringing this importance of community. It's also something that I really advocate for. And I see how nowadays we drifted so far away from being in community into being our own, as you said, small families or small individuals. And there is so much power in the intention and energy of the community. And for me, practicing Yoga Nidra in group is never the same as practicing it by myself, because there is something that's being created, the energy created in the space when there are more people resting or more people dreaming. It feels so much more powerful. And of course, not to disregard individual practice, as you said, but yes, something about the community and our connection with one another. It's just so powerful. And I'm also wishing for everyone to find their communities, to go back to their communities, to check out the International Association for the Study of Dreams, to check out the conference that is coming this June in Netherlands. It's an amazing opportunity to connect with like-minded people, to learn, to share your stories, to practice together, really not to feel alone, because many of us do feel alone those days, even though we're constantly surrounded by others, but we feel alone. So I feel that it's a beautiful closure for our conversation, this importance of community and of seeing maybe beyond the individual and creating this next step on your journey. And I feel that it's so important for us to be able to always imagine and see this next thing.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure if you were aware, I have recently only seen Yoga Nidra offered at these conferences here and there. I did it, I offered it once, and there's been other people who offer a Yoga Nidra session
I
at
will be leading one this June. Yes.
You will be, yeah.
Yes, that's me. Yes, yes, yes.
So this is so important to bring Yoga Nidra, because we're not the only two in ISD who are certified in Yoga Nidra. And, I mean, the community aspect is so important. I've been leading Yoga Nidra for free for the last 4.5 years.
Wow.
Once a week, I do it online now, and sometimes in person when I can get the spaces. But it's a way to build community with people internationally, just like the conference all over the world, to be able to talk about these phenomena that we're experiencing. Because sometimes we go to work and the last conversation at the water cooler is going to be about dreams.
Exactly. That's why it's so important. Find your people, learn, join us in the conference, experience it yourself, come and experience it with us and really see for yourself, like what a big change it can make in your life. You're not going to regret it. So.
Well, we can say, find us at the conference this
Exactly.
June.
So you can find me and Kim at the conference. So Kim, you want to maybe say before we wrap up, are you going to lead a workshop? Are you going to present at the conference?
Claire Johnson and I will be doing a panel together on initiation dreams.
Oh, that's so exciting. I will be there for sure.
Because sometimes dreams really open up a new door that you didn't think you'd find yourself walking through, and initiate you into a new aspect of yourself, or a new practice, or just a whole new life, a whole new way of existing in the world. So we'll talk about different types, categories that we've experienced in our own dream lives of what we're calling initiation dreams, and we're going to invite the audience to share theirs. So it will be a panel, but very interactive.
Oh, I so can't wait. I'm counting the days to June, actually. Really can't wait for this conference.
Good time. Yeah. And you're going to be offering some deep relaxation there. So that is wonderful. That's lovely.
Amazing. I'm going to add all the links to the conference and also to Kim's website. So if anyone would like to contact you, talk to you, go to your retreat that you organize, we haven't had a chance to talk about it, but Kim is also organizing retreats and have one upcoming May in Canada. Am I right?
Yeah, on Cortes Island in British Columbia, Canada. This May at Hollyhock, which is an amazing place. I love being there. I love being there. The island, the whole island and the whole area is absolutely breathtaking and incredible, and has such a real sense of just grounding there. It's got to be the nature. I mean, you're in
No,
nature.
it must be in nature. That's non-negotiable.
Amazing. And yeah, consciouschimera.com has a tab that says, the May 2024 retreat.
Amazing. I'm going to add all those links so you can contact Kim and ask her any questions you might have about the retreat, about dreams, about yoga nidra, therapy, anything you like. And thank you so much for being here today with me for this conversation, for your personal shares. I think they're so important for others to hear also our own authentic stories so they can relate and feel empowered by them. Because I believe research is amazing and numbers are great, but I feel that when we really share from the heart what we went through personally and how it changed us, it has the biggest impact on other people. So thank you so much for opening and sharing those beautiful dreams you had and your own journey.
Yeah, 100%. And it does feel risky, right? To kind of step into that vulnerable space and share something that for some people is so personal, but that's how we get support. That's how we get care, love, support, and guidance to live and exist in a new way with each other. So
thank you, Kim. It was lovely to have you here, and I'm so looking forward to seeing you in person in Netherlands.
Same. Be well.
I really hope that you enjoyed this show. If you did, please consider giving it a like and maybe leaving a review. And most importantly, feel free to share it with your family and friends. For more information about my work and projects, you can check out my website www.bluelotuskingdom.com.